what's called people who can communicate with angels and those in the divine. But just like how they have people that can communicate with angels, or they're being communicated to by angels, not only does it say that in the scriptures, you've seen it many times, all the prophets and many others communicated with angels. Daniel, Moses, I can go on down the line, Jeremiah. But just like how you have people that can communicate with angels or the divine, there's also people in this world I'm speaking of. There's also people in this world can communicate with evil, with demonic entities. There's actually people that can communicate with demonic entities. I know that might be shocking to y'all, but it's not. You got to think like that. Matter of fact, I'm a Christian. First of all, we all know that, but I'm a Christian. And you all and you have to know, if you read the Bible and you're into the word, you have to know that there's a divine, and a lot of things that was written as it relates to religion, as it relates to Christianity and others, it's messages that was delivered from the divine. You have to accept that. It's certain people that's chosen and blessed that they can be communicated to from the divine, from angels, from God, from Jesus, and others in the divine. Then you have those that's able to communicate with devils, demons, negative entities. And you know they exist. Think about one of those individuals that Jesus removed, that had an unclean spirit in them. Notice, unclean spirit in somebody made them do some of the stuff that they were doing that was so bad. And I remember in one of the parts of the scriptures where Jesus' disciples came to Jesus and was like, basically saying, we couldn't remove, why were you able to remove the unclean spirit that we couldn't remove? Because at first when they did it, Jesus was like, oh, ye of little faith. He was basically clowning them for like, oh, they faith so little, they didn't remove this unclean spirit when I already told them they can do it. But what happened was, and Jesus explained to them when they was like, why couldn't we do that? Jesus said, this is one that required prayer and fasting. So it's different levels of the kind of unclean entities that's out there in the world. And you guys got to look at it like this. It's unseen to us. Like when, like these negative entities, look at that as clean and unclean spirits. The unclean spirits, demonic spirits, and things like that. They exist. They get up inside your head. They try to take advantage of your faith or lack of. And like it said in the Bible, when you first start reading the Bible, when you first get into the word, you're like a baby. And it even mentions that in the Bible, in the scriptures, about, you know, it's almost like you're a little kid, you don't know everything. And these things, these entities are on a high level, on a many kind of ways. And Jesus, I believe Jesus said that you must really master the word in order to deal with these kind of entities, or they'll take advantage of you. When you find yourself wanting to go against somebody for nothing just because you don't like them or you're jealous, that's nothing. Look, they walking in here with this fancy stuff and they know they could get at the money that they pay for that away to something. You know, it's something negative that's coming to that person and make them not like somebody. I use that kind of example, but it's millions of examples of you hating on somebody or you feeling a certain kind of way because of some kind of negative entity, or not knowing that a negative entity then incorporated itself in your mind, and all of a sudden you become the mouthpiece for that negative entity or the action for that negative entity. If you think about it, Jesus said the two most important commandments is to love God with all your heart, with all your mind, soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Because your mind has to be strong in order to deal with these unclean entities. You got to be able, it's almost like you got to know Satan's tongue. You got to know what he's thinking or what he's trying to make you do. And it takes practice. You have to rehearse that. That don't make sense. You got to question it. Why do I feel like that? Because this person came in here and they got more than me. Why do I feel funny about that? Why do I feel jealous because all of these girls is going up to this one guy? Why do you feel like that? Or a girl, she might feel jealous of one of her because guys are talking to these other girls and she jealous of. I'm just giving you little basic, simple kind of things like, what's your reasoning for having an issue with something, somebody, or some situation for no reason? These are the kind of things that try to get up inside, and it's a divide and conquer tactic or element. In the New Testament, Apostle Paul, they talk about the fights that we have. We don't have fights among each other. Like when you have to deal with another person and you're not really dealing with that person. You're dealing with certain principalities, certain entities that's way more powerful. So sometimes when you're mad at somebody, even though you're mad at somebody, really you're mad at what came out of their mouth or some situation. If it's a legitimate reason to be upset, not the jealous, I'm jealous of this person or I'm jealous of that person. No, not those instances. Actually, if you're debating with somebody and it gets to a point to where it gets personal or it gets somewhere it shouldn't have gotten to, then 9 times out of 10 it was some kind of negative entity or unclean spirit that then got incorporated into one, if not both, in order allow for the divide and conquer situation to take place. So it's a lot to that. So and these kind of things I'm bringing up because I want to teach you guys. I want you guys to get it. Love. Always put love. Always pray. Always ask God and Jesus to help you. Whenever you're going through something, are you mad at your loved ones? Are you mad? Are you jealous? Or if something doesn't feel right, and the reason that you're in conflict, that's an unclean spirit that's probably in you trying to make you do something mess up so you can get in jail. How many times somebody that went to jail and sat in jail and was like, man, I shouldn't have did that. That 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever it took for you to end up in jail. How many times you sat in jail and thought about that? Like, dang, I should have never did that. It wasn't worth it. But that little couple of minutes, that negative, unseen, unclean entity then got involved and made you hit somebody with something that actually killed them or really injured them enough to where you got taken away, or that made you do a domestic violence situation. Just that instant, and you might feel like, dang, I just lost it for a minute. That losing it for a minute, that's that unclean entity that's there. That's that thing you got to fight with your mind and be like, you know what? It's not that serious that I'm going to be that mad. Because a lot of times we get in trouble when we look back on it as we grew up, and even as an adult, we sit back and think, man, I wish I would have did that differently. Sometimes you can't just say that. Sometimes that moment or lack of moment of clarity or interruption by some unclean entity can cause you to get locked up for life. You might not be able to sit and say, man, I made a mistake. I got into it with that person and it ended up, a punch thrown and I shouldn't have hit this person. Or I shouldn't have did that. Or I shouldn't have reacted like that. And you were able to live for another day in that kind of instance. But these things come and they can cause you to do something that you get locked up for life, that you'll be sitting in jail saying, man, I can't believe I'm in here. I should have never did X, Y, Z, whatever it was. That's why when we talk about, and I know you've heard many ministers and other people of faith talk about, um, you know, not doing those kind of things, to think first. You know, that's very important. You got to think first. Think before you act. Be patient. Like Jesus said, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to wrath. And if you can incorporate those things in your life, you can make a better decision. And then 9 times out of 10, you won't end up in jail or persecuted for something that you had a momentary lapse of judgment on. Just something to think about. I love you guys. If you like some of the content that we're talking about, there's a whole lot that's coming. Please subscribe. Please share. And I'll talk to you soon. KnowRight Ministries. Peace.